These people, landless laborers, they did not have any idea about the medicinal plants. They had very less or zero awareness of the role of biodiversity conservation. Found out that the grassland population was decreasing and one species of tree was occupying that particular area, which was called as B.C.A. monosperma. When the nitrogen content increases, what happens? Aquatic plants, which are free floating and all that, they will start to grow in larger numbers. Hello everyone, a warm welcome to today's session on Environmental Studies for second semester B.C.A. I'm Dr. Divya, Environmental Studies faculty, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. So in today's session, let us continue with studying Unit 2, that is Ecosystem. This session, which is the last session of this unit, we shall take up learning about certain case studies on different ecosystems such as the forest ecosystem, the grassland ecosystem and the aquatic ecosystem. So under each of these I have taken one case studies each. So talking about case studies of forest ecosystem. So there was a case study which the heading goes like this, that is impact of cultivation and gathering of medicinal plants on biodiversity. So let's study about a case study of forest ecosystem wherein the impact of cultivation and gathering of medicinal plants on biodiversity. So here under forest ecosystem, let us take up a case study wherein the heading goes like this, impact of cultivation and gathering of medicinal plants on biodiversity. So this was a case study from India and they had done this case study in Maradavalli State Forest. So Maradavalli State Forest is 25 kilometers from Sagar town, that is in Shivamogga district in the Western Ghats. And this area is quite rich in a lot of medicinal plants and a number of medicinal plants have come up or are being extracted from that particular forest area even to treat cancer also. So this forest area covers around 23.2 square kilometer and it has semi-evergreen forest, that is intermediate between evergreen and moist deciduous forest with abundant number of trees, plants, mosses, ferns, etc. Because we all know that Shivamogga receives quite a high amount of rainfall, therefore the vegetation there is quite dense and especially it comes under this forest, Maradavalli comes under the Western Ghats. So they conducted a study on this particular forest wherein they wanted to know the decline in the population of medicinal plants. So what they did was, so this particular forest area on the northern part of the village was usually covered by dense forest about 10 years ago. So scientists, whoever wanted to conduct this particular study in order to see whether there is a decline in the plant population, especially the medicinal plants, what they did was they went in for a survey wherein they found out that the forest area which was present in the northern part of this particular village of Shivamogga, it was covered by dense forest around a decade ago, that is 10 years ago. But now because of rapid destruction, only a thin forest exists. So that dense forest that was there 10 years ago, that no more exists today. And in this forest, usually landless laborers. So people need money for their survival, right? And some of the people who have land, they'll toil in the land and then they will make an income out of it, or at least they can grow crops and cereals which they can use as food. But what about those people who are landless, who do not have any income? So such landless laborers were employed by some of the contractors. So when I say some of the contractors, these contractors were meant only to collect medicinal plants from these forest areas. And these people, landless laborers, they did not have any idea about the medicinal plants. They had very less or zero awareness of the role of biodiversity conservation. So whatever the contractors used to tell them, okay, for today collect so many varieties of medicinal plants in so much of quantity, they would just do it without even thinking of whether it is going to create a loss to the biodiversity or not. So the development of cultivation as a source of medicinal plants have led to some of the current habitat destruction. Now what happens? Say for example, these medicinal plants were fetching good amount of money to the contractors. It is always like that, right? The grower is somebody, but in between the middleman makes a lot of money. It's always like that. Be it a vegetable also, it is like that. The farmers get a mere amount of money, but the middlemen who are there, the lull is what we call, or the contractors what we call, they get enough amount of money. They mint money by giving very less money to the farmers, right? And when that product is sold to us, we have to pay extra more money, and which even the farmers don't actually get that particular price. So same thing happened here. The landless laborers were given very less wage, and they were made to work more and the collect plant materials or medicinal plant materials more by these contractors. So these contractors were making quite an amount of money, wherein they got even more greedy, and they started, those farmers who had lands, they started persuading them to cultivate crops, that is medicinal plants in their land. So this developmental practice wherein the forest, they started cutting down the forest, they started clearing down the forest and using that land to completely grow medicinal plant, so that the contractors could get enough amount of money. So this actually led to habitat destruction, because whatever species of trees or plants were living there, that got destroyed because of the greediness of the contractors here. So why did the contractors become greedy? They became greedy mainly because there was quite a lot of demand for these medicinal products in terms of Ayurveda. Even a lot of other pharmacies also were depending on these medicinal plants to manufacture synthetic forms of tablets, that is medicines and all that. So that is when the demand for this increased, they started to destroy forest and cultivating or replacing the forest with medicinal plant cultivation, which led to habitat destruction. And this habitat destruction eventually led to decrease in annual rainfall, then it led to deforestation, then it also led to submersion. Submersion occurred due to Linganamaki Dam. So a lot of problems had arose because of the cultivation of these medicinal plants and all that. One thing was, because of the cultivation of medicinal plants, they started to go in for deforestation, that is cutting of trees. Second is deforestation led to a decrease in the annual rainfall. Third one is, already what had happened was, because of the construction of Linganamaki Dam in that particular region, half of the forest had been destroyed because of flooding and all that. So in spite of that, not just that, and there was installation of power lines also. This also led to destruction of the forest or the habitat. And not just that, even monoculture. Monoculture means what they started to do was, they went in for culturing only medicinal plants in these destroyed forest areas. That is only single medicinal plant which was in high demand, and they didn't even bother about growing other crops. So therefore, the species of other crops or plants eventually came down, and therefore resulted in the abundance of only one or two species of the medicinal plants. Next is encroachment. People started to encroach, especially the contractors. They persuaded the farmers having land in order to encroach or to illegally expand their lands into the forest, so that the medicinal plants can be grown. And also over exploitation, that led to destructive harvesting. So destructive harvesting, what they did was, they didn't give time for the medicinal plants to grow back to replenish itself. once they found a medicinal plant, all the medicinal plants they used to just over harvest, therefore leading to the deterioration in the population of those medicinal plants and also the complete extinction of that particular species in that particular area. So all this had occurred especially because of the greed of the people, especially those contractors who made use or took advantage of those laborers who did not know the value of biodiversity. So this is how in Maradavalli forest, that is in Shivamogga, how the plant population drastically declined because of the over cultivation using the medicinal plants and over harvesting of the medicinal plants. So I've put a website here, so you can just click on this website and you can read the full article regarding this particular case study. And I also want you to tell me like what exactly can be done to stop all these problems. I told you they went in for deforestation, they went in for monoculture, they went in for encroachment, then they started to unnecessarily harvest the medicinal plants, declining the population of the medicinal plants. So as you are environmental students who studying this particular topic, I want you to tell me what you would have done as a biodiversity conservationist or an environmentalist, what you would have done to save the particular Maradavalli rain forest that is there in the Western Ghats of Shivamogga district. So just drop a comment wherein even I'll come to know that what are your different ideas you come up with. So next is the case studies of grassland ecosystem. So here I've taken a case study. Again, this is also from central India itself, wherein it is a space-based long-term observation of shrinking of grassland habitat. So nowadays, the destruction of the forest, the shrinkage in the greenery of a particular area, everything gets captured in the satellites, right? So using satellites, they directly went in for a long term, that is for many years, they studied whether the grassland ecosystem is getting altered or not. So that is a case study. So here a grassland was selected, that is Ronda grassland, which is present in Kanha National Park, and it is a very well known protected area in India. So Kanha National Park is a well known protected area in India because it has a lot of herbivore population and also it has the hard ground Barsinga. So Barsinga is a deer actually. So Barsinga population is particularly more in this particular Kanha National Park, and it is more because it is a grassland. So they actually chose this area for study. So they went in for long-term satellite observation, that is for 5 decades, that is for 50 years they collected the data and they went in for understanding the spatio-temporal changes, that is in this 50 years has there been a decline in the area of the grassland in this particular national park or not? If so, what might have been the reason? All those studies they have conducted using space-based long-term observation studies. So what did they find out? They found out that 88 hectare, that is 16% of Ronda and surrounding, have been ingressed during 1962 to 2011. That is, there has been about 88 hectares of grasslands has reduced in Kanha National Park since 1962 to 2011. That is for 5 decades. That is what they found out. And the rate of this ingression or decline in the grassland area were found to be 60 to 120 meters per decade. So 88 hectares was for 50 years. Per decade, that is for per 10 years, they found out that 60 to 120 meter per area of grassland was shrinking. It was being lost from that particular Kanha National Park. So they went in for conducting field studies. So they conducted field studies and they went in for NDVI. NDVI means normalized difference vegetation index. That is to know the density of the vegetation, to know how thick the area is, how thick the grassland in that particular area is. So for that, they went in for field studies and NDVI analysis along the edge of the grassland as well as in the inner region of the grassland in 1972, and they found out that woody vegetation was replacing the area of grassland. So once Kanha National Park, which was a grassland, is now being converted to woody vegetation. So that is what they found out based on the analysis or the satellite images that they had drawn. So it was noted that B.C.A monosperma. So this is a timber yielding plant which actually invaded more than other species in Rhondda grassland, particularly along the stream where large amounts of moisture content was available highly. And the grassland habitats in Kanha thus began to shrink. That is past 50 years what they had collected the data, right? They came to found out that the grassland population was decreasing and one species of tree was occupying that particular area, which was called as B.C.A monosperma. Why grassland was decreasing? Because B.C.A monosperma was occupying those areas wherever moisture availability was quite high. And grassland habitat in Kanha thus started to shrink, leading to reduction in the area available for herbivorous population, which has increased in recent years. If grasses are there, herbivorous population will increase because it is not possible for the herbivorous animals to feed on the tall trees apart from giraffes and elephants, right? So what about the other small herbivores that are there? They have to depend on the grassland. Now here what is happening? Grassland is being replaced by a higher variety of tree, that is B.C.A monosperma. So this is what their finding was. So therefore there was a change in the habitat occurring because of human intervention. Maybe people themselves maybe started planting these trees for timber purpose, furniture making, etc. So that is how the shrinkage of the grassland started. Obviously, the shrinkage of grassland will lead to a decline in the population of Barsinga also, and it is not like maybe the years are not far away wherein the complete Barsinga population might become extinct, because Kanha National Park is famous for Barsinga animal or the herbivore. So this was a case study of grassland ecosystem. Yourself can analyze like what can be done for this, how to curb the spread of one variety of plant and how to bring back the grassland or improve the grassland in that particular area. So such case studies are very, very important. Why? Because it makes you think, like as an environmental science student, how you can contribute to prevent the shrinkage of a particular variety of plant and to promote the development of that particular plant variety and all that. So this is the research paper from which this case study was taken. So if you need complete data regarding this case study, you can just have a look into this particular research paper. So this is next is case studies of desert ecosystem. So climate change projections and impacts on Thar desert ecosystem. This was the case study that I have chosen here. Climate change projections and impact on Thar ecosystem. That is Thar desert, which is the largest desert that is there in India, in Rajasthan. So a lot of climate. So we might think what can happen to the Thar desert, right? First of all, it is very, very hot. No proper vegetation there. Anyway, they are receiving very less rainfall. But still, how can climate alter the Thar desert? So here we have taken a case study wherein it shows what and all can happen to the desert ecosystem if a climate change occurs. So Thar desert is usually subjected to extreme diurnal, that is day and night temperature, and also temperature that occurs that changes usually widely during the that is seasonal changes in the temperature also. So not just seasonal changes in the temperature can be seen in the Thar desert, but the day temperature and the night temperature is also completely different in the Thar desert. Days are extremely hot and nights are extremely cold. That is, they have a seasonal variation of temperature ranging from -5 degrees Celsius in winter and up to more than 49 degrees Celsius in summer, causing thermal stress to the fauna. So, fauna, that is the animal population that is there. So, this drastic variation in temperature, seasonal variation, that is in summer it is for more than that is 49 degrees Celsius, and in winter it is -5 degrees Celsius. So, this diurnal fluctuation can actually cause a lot of thermal related stress, that is heat related stress to the animals that are living in the Thar desert. So, the Intergovernment Panel on Climate Change, which is called as IPCC. So, this particular government panel in the year 2007, they predicted that for hotter days and warm nights and a reduction in rainfall in Thar region by 21st century. They said the climate in Thar desert is going to change by 21st century, wherein they will have even more hotter days and also warm nights. Actually, nights are usually cold in the Thar desert, but here the nights can be warmer because the days will be getting even more hotter until it is by the time it is 21st century. So, that is what they predicted. So, what were the findings of these research that was done, or the case study that was conducted in the Thar desert? So, what was the case study about? They were saying that the all complete change in the seasonal variation as well as diurnal variation in the temperature can alter the living or the habitat, or can cause a huge problem on the animals that are living in the Thar desert. So, what they found out was annual rainfall and temperature for Thar region at the end of 21st century showed an increase in temperature by 3.8 degrees Celsius at Bikaner, and there was a 3.6 degrees Celsius increase at Jaisalmer. That was the prediction, right? When was the prediction done? 2007. The prediction was done by the IPCC. So, IPCC predicted in 2007 that by when it reaches 21st century, the Thar desert climate is going to change, wherein the temperature is going to be hotter during the day and warmer during the night. This is what they said, and research was conducted and they found out that is by the end of 21st century there was an increase in temperature by 3.8 degrees Celsius at Bikaner, 3.6 degrees Celsius at Jaisalmer, and 2.8 degrees Celsius at Jodhpur, and 2.3 degrees Celsius at Pali. That is the previous temperature. So much increase was found out. But there was no significant rise in the annual rainfall. Though the temperature increased, but there was no much changes in the annual rainfall. It remained the same. Neither it became less nor it became more. That is what they found out. And they also found out that the annual rainfall can be increased in the next coming years. That is by 40 millimeter at Bikaner, by 119 millimeter at Jaisalmer, and it can lessen by -13 millimeter at Jodhpur, and it can increase in Pali. So, all these were the findings. So, temperature, what findings they did, that came out to be true. That is, it increased. But annual rainfall, they said that there was no significant change in the annual rainfall. But in the coming years, when they went in for the study, they noticed that some of the regions, there was slight increase in the annual rainfall, and some of the region had a decrease, especially one, that is Jodhpur, had a decrease in annual rainfall. So, during monsoon season, the impact of elevated temperature or the increase in temperature led to water demand. Why? What happens? Even though annual rainfall increases, if the temperature is also high, what will happen? As soon as the water falls on the ground, because of the increase in temperature, the water very fast will get evaporated. Therefore, there is no point of an increase in the annual rainfall. That is what happened in Rajasthan here, because of change in the climate. And such increase in demand for water due to global warming will reduce the scarce water and feeds resources of the Thar region. So, that is what they said. So, that is what we might think that, okay, anyway the climate, Thar region is arid, so what might happen? But still there also the change in the climate can alter the complete population of the flora and fauna of that particular region. So what happened according to this case study? The temperature increased. There was also not much increase in the annual rainfall, but a little increase in the annual rainfall. But in spite of an increase in the annual rainfall in some of the places of Rajasthan, because of the warmer temperature, even during the rainy season, the evaporation of water led to scarcity of water, and therefore there was a demand for water by both the plants and the animals and the humans living there. So that is how even a mild increase in temperature can alter the climatic condition of the Thar desert, in spite if even though they receive a increased rainfall that particular year. So this is what they meant. So the complete detail of the case study is given in this particular, that is, journal. So you can have a look into it if you need more information regarding this case study. So next is case studies of aquatic ecosystem. So here, talking about aquatic ecosystem, here also I have taken a case study of southern India, that is in Kandleru Creek in Andhra Pradesh, wherein IRS data was collected to determine the shrimp farming development. So what problem did shrimp farming lead to? So you all can ask me, like, okay, shrimps are meant to be a aquatic animal. They are meant to live in waters. So anyway, they are the organisms that live in water. Then what problem might shrimp farming cause? But what happened here was, so this was a case study that was undertaken in Kandaleru Creek area in Nellore district of Andhra Pradesh. What they did was they assessed the water wherein the shrimp cultivation was done, that particular creek or natural source of water. There they assessed the water and they found out the nutrient release in terms of nitrogen was very large because of shrimp farming. So it is true, right? Aquatic animals, whenever they feed on something and when they excrete, their excreta contains lots of nitrogen. And this nitrogen was evaluated. The quantity of nitrogen was evaluated in the creek to see whether this nitrogen that is being eliminated by the shrimp, whether it can cause or alter the habitat of the natural ecosystem of that particular creek. So that is what they found out. So the changes in nitrogen levels were, they found out that the changes in nitrogen level were quite high and it showed a marked increase in eutrophication. What is eutrophication? The nitrogen content in the water got collected and it became so high. Nitrogen is one of the important components, or it is a fertilizer that is needed for the proper growth of plants. So what happens here is, because of shrimp cultivation, the nitrogen content in this particular creek, that is water source, Kandleru water source in Nellore district of Andhra Pradesh, the nitrogen content increased. When the nitrogen content increases, what happens? Aquatic plants, which are free floating and all that, they will start to grow in larger numbers. If they start to grow in larger numbers, what happens? They will destroy the other aquatic habitat that is there in that particular creek. So therefore, completely eliminating the population here. So that is what happened. And also, because of semi-intensive shrimp farming, also eutrophication occur. So shrimp farming was carried out on a larger scale. That is, they were not maintaining the quantity of shrimp that had to be led to the creek. Because of greediness to earn more money, they started going for intensive shrimp farming, which eventually led to increase in nitrogen content, and that nitrogen content eventually led to eutrophication of that particular water body. So this was the finding that they did in Kandleru Creek of Rajasthan. So what was the exact finding? So the study revealed that apart from this particular, the one reason was the creek, Kandleru Creek, they went in for intensive shrimp farming, which led to increase in nitrogen content in the lake, therefore eutrophication of the lake. That is, eutrophication, I can call it as death of the lake. Why? Because if eutrophication occurs, then the lake will start to rot. So therefore, it will lead to the death of all the other aquatic habitat organisms that are there in that particular lake. So one more word eutrophication, I can call it as death of the lake will occur. And one more thing was, in order to expand the shrimp cultivation, what people started to do was, they also started to cut the mangrove, clear the mangrove areas that was there in that particular creek, and therefore the mangrove forest in Kandleru Creek deteriorated or decreased by 72% due to different land use activities. What was the land use activity? 22% of the mangrove forest they destroyed in order to continue shrimp farming, because shrimps usually they require just not very deep water, shallow waters are also enough for them to grow properly. So that is why people started to encroach, or illegally they started to destroy the mangrove forest and convert those mangrove forests to creeks wherein they can grow, or water bodies wherein they can go in for shrimp cultivation. So that was also a problem faced. So therefore the whatever creek was there in Kandleru, eutrophication or the death of the creek occurred, or the death of the water body occurred, and also the decrease in the mangrove population also occurred because of intensive shrimp farming. So these were the two reasons. So here one more thing can be done. So what can be done here? Like in order to safeguard this creek, wherein shrimp cultivation should also go smoothly, and also the creek also should not, or the water body also should not get spoiled. So how can it be done? So if you have any ideas regarding that, how to cope up with this extensive shrimp farming, wherein you can go in for shrimp farming as well as preserve that particular water body, what ideas you have, just put it in the comment in this for this particular session. So this was about this particular topic, that is a case study of aquatic ecosystem, wherein we took Kandleru Creek, that is shrimp cultivation Kandleru Creek of Andhra Pradesh as an example. So this is the paper that was written wherein the heading goes like this: determining shrimp farming development, a case study using IRS data at Kandleru Creek in Andhra Pradesh. So just have a look at this particular journal so that you will get complete information about this case study. Also you might get ideas like what can be followed to that is continue with shrimp farming and also not spoil the aquatic ecosystem. So this was about this particular session. That is the last session of this topic, wherein we took case studies regarding forest ecosystem, grassland ecosystem, desert ecosystem and aquatic ecosystem. So I hope you understood this. So there are various case studies that are there. Under each of these I've just taken one. You can also log into Google and search for case studies, where you'll get enough ideas about what exactly is happening to the environment because of human greed, or how the different ecosystems are getting altered because of human greed. So this was about this session. I hope you understood this session well. So we shall meet again in the coming sessions taking up a new unit. Thank you.